Hello, hello. I think I'm too far away. I don't care how far away. Today's a really ramble style video. Welcome back to the Serious channel, Triumph 2. I want to talk about, I'm pretty sure I've done multiple videos on this already, but I want to revisit an objective morality conversation specifically because I watched Alex O'Connor's video with, oh my God, what is it? Is it Mike? Is it a Mike Bragg? I'll put a clip of it up here. I'll put a picture of it up here. But seeing his conversation, I felt it was very strange that this person believed in an objective morality, and then when questioned about how you apply this, the rules of this objective morality, it seemed to become pretty subjective. Now, who is it Iron Rand? No, I believe it was Rand. There was some person that wrote a book that they were quite the fan of, and they had an understanding of objective morality that this Mike person seemed to think was pretty solid. I think it was Craig. I don't think it's Mike. I think it's Craig. Nah, it's Craig. It is Craig. All right. Anyway, the point is, this Craig individual seemed to believe that life itself is the basis for objective morality, and kind of in a weird sense. How did he phrase it? That only someone that can have, like, it's as if ethics or morals, not ethics, morals seems to be the means by which one propagates or furthers life itself, right? So it kind of reminded me of Sam Harris's understanding of objective morality. Like, imagine the worst possible world and the best possible world, and then, Jordan Peterson will be like, so heaven and hell, and then Sam Harris will be like, I don't want to use those words. But basically, bad things, most people seem to agree on what things are bad. Well, he wouldn't say it this way because that sounds subjective, but dying is bad, living is good. Doing things that propagate living are morally good, and doing things that make living not possible or difficult, those things are bad. That seemed to be the starting point, because he didn't seem to want to use Christianity and say, like, God exists, God makes morals. He didn't do that. Now, I thought that was quite foolish because that's not necessarily objectively true. But I think I have to explain why I think objective morality is necessarily illogical, kind of, because of how I understand what morality means. Like, when people complain about moral relativists, like myself or Alex O'Connor, saying like, well, it seems like what you're saying is saying murder is wrong is similar to saying like chocolate ice cream tastes bad, which is to say, in both instances, I don't like that. I don't like chocolate ice cream. I don't like when people are murdered. Now, one could argue that the using murder becomes almost a tautology. It's like, because murder's like the unjust killing. Like, so by definition, it includes the understanding that there is some wrong. I don't know if you guys heard that. I don't know how good this mic is. But the point is, I do think it is kind of the same thing. Like, just because I dislike murder more than I dislike chocolate ice cream doesn't mean that it's some separate category of thing. And I think that makes people very uncomfortable. Now, growing up as the, contrarian kid that became an atheist as a 14-year-old, like when all the rest of us did, and be like, well, I think I'm smart on this, smart on that. There's almost like, I don't have a problem with thinking counterintuitive or uncomfortable things are true. Like, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to think that something unsatisfying is the case. So that, like, when someone says like, well, you can't possibly mean that it's the same thing to think murder. Let me make sure this is still recording. Yes, it is. You can't possibly mean that murder and taste and preferences in food are the same thing. Like, it can't just be a preferences. And then my question is, why? Why can't it be just a preference? Like, I know it makes you upset, but what about your upsetness makes any difference here, right? What is it to say that someone dislikes a certain food? They have some experience takes place, which causes a reaction for a person, and then a stimuli in some brain, and they prefer to not experience that reaction or stimuli. Therefore, they prefer that experience not to happen. That's what disliking food is, and that's kind of similar. I don't know how, again, this background noise is a test of data. Sorry if you guys hear things. If you don't hear things and I sound crazy, sorry again. But it's the similar thing. It's a similar thing, really, with horrible, with things that are considered morally bad. Murder, attacking people, stealing, other things that I don't want to get demonetized for talking about. Even genocide or whatnot. The most insanely cruel things are things that you don't like happening, things that you don't enjoy. Immensely so, but it's still the same type of thing. Now, if you're going to say that it's more than just I don't like it, that is objectively bad, well, what do you mean by objective? Do you mean that same for all observers in some sort of sense? Like, I don't think anything, I think, like, even, I think it, who is it? Is it special relativity that's the scientific, like, even light moves at a different speeds based on the observer, or, well, I guess it gets to the location at the same time, but the speed by which it's moving could look different. Like, if this isn't a science lesson, we'll talk about light and how it moves later, but do you mean, like, do all people consider it bad? Well, obviously not, because there's a murderer, and the murderer didn't think that the murder was bad, right? The murderer thought it was, something that they liked doing. And notice I use the term murder in that instance because, like, killing someone could be self-defense or you didn't want to do it, but the murder kind of implies you wanted to somebody. Or maybe you think there's just, now I have to, I'll say kill because murder needs unjust, but killing somebody who did something that you think is bad, maybe you think that's morally acceptable. Well, then that's subjective in another sense. It's not true in all cases or true for all observers. If you think there's ever a just time to kill, then murder or killing isn't objectively bad. Now, you could also say something like murdering someone who's innocent is always bad or objectively bad, but that's kind of a tautology, right? Because, like, murder... I need to stop getting distracted. Lightning, there's, like, electricity in the background. Murder, like, that's a tautology, because, like, if the unjust killing of someone is what murder is, right? So if they're innocent, then necessarily it's an unjust killing. But killing someone who did nothing to deserve it is always bad. One could argue, but what is the basis by which someone determines that they deserved it? So then the killing part, if it cannot be bad because of certain preceding circumstances, then it's subjective still, right? Because it's dependent on some other circumstance. It could be dependent on the situation, like in all cases, like I mentioned earlier, or depending on who's doing it, depending on who, just depending on the situation or or from the perspective of the observer. So again, like, I suppose that maybe I'm missing something. And in the comments, if you guys think there's something I'm missing about what objective means, be sure to let you know. Now, again, if you're someone who is a Christian or Muslim or someone, and your understanding of what objective truth is that which God says is so, that makes the objectiveness a boring conversation. And I would still have a conversation with someone like you. We would just talk about, okay, for one, we'd have to talk about what it would mean for a God to exist. We'd have to prove a God exists, talk about what it would mean. How do we know its rules? Is it a God that has a book where it changes its mind on things, right? Like, the fact that there's a new covenant means God doesn't have objective rules. It changes whenever God feels like it. So it's still subjective to the being, and the being could change its mind. So it's still, like, it's subjective to the being's feelings. Like, objective is a really tricky thing to work with because it should mean always the same in all cases from all perspectives. And that's not really the case about most anything, right? Maybe about concepts, abstractions and concepts, that could be true. Like 1 + 1 objectively always equals 2. And if it doesn't equal 2, then you're probably using a different definition of 1 or 2, right? Like you're doing Terrence Howard thing. You're doing a Terrence Howard thing where, like, you've changed the definition of what 1 is or 2 is, or when are we grouping things in a strange way. It's getting pretty dark. I should probably wrap this up really soon. I should go into more of Craig's specific perspective, but it didn't seem like he had a fully fleshed out perspective, because every time Alex would ask him any question, it kind of just felt like he would it sounded like he was coming up with it on the fly. Now he asked about, um, he used a was it egoism? Is that the term? Maybe it was egoism. Basically, the idea that doing good for others is good for yourself. And Alex proposed a hypothetical. Oh, other interesting thing, Craig didn't like hypotheticals. Like there was a hypothetical scenario where people couldn't die. And he said, I don't want to engage with that. We didn't say engage, but basically he didn't want to engage in the hypothetical because that can't happen. So why interact with something that can never take place? And I'm like, bro, aren't you doing philosophy? Like everybody was really turned off to him pretty much from that point. It was really hard for me to take him in good faith because he doesn't want to engage in hypotheticals. I'm like, well, the whole point of hypothetical is to test see, put your ideas up to scrutiny, see if they're always, if they hold up in different scenarios or whatnot. So is this true or is this just a decent way for functioning? Now, because if it doesn't hold up in a hypothetical scenario, even if it isn't a possible one, it could be useful but not objectively true. And he wasn't willing to grant that because he needs objectives to be morality to be true for whatever reason. But more specifically, he asked, what if there is a psychopath, someone who doesn't feel that they don't feel bad when they harm somebody else? And the answer was, well, this person is so broken that we don't even need to make rules for them. So he started arguing about like the rights to jail somebody. I'm like, that wasn't even a question. I don't care about the right to jail someone. I want to argue about, was it morally wrong to do something? Like, if this is a person who, like, it's not objectively true that being good to others always helps someone. So something isn't objectively morally good ever in any situation. Like, what if it's in my best interest to harm others? What if there is me and one other person are on an island? There's enough food for just one of us. If both of us try and eat off of it, we'll both starve before help comes. If I attack them, I can survive. If they attack me, they can survive. Is it morally good to help that other person, even though we'll both suffer, and one of us can actually benefit? Both of us die. Either way, someone dies in that situation. And in one scenario, only one of us can die. I would argue that the most good comes from letting one of us die because life and survival is the most practical thing. I wish Alex maybe used an example like that where it's not about just someone wanting to kill because they enjoy killing, but maybe they want to kill because, like, hey, I don't know. But maybe Alex is smarter than me, so he probably has a better reason for it. Anyway, but again, there's many ways we can understand a scenario by which it isn't always the case that doing some action creates some benefit. So we can't use the standard of we do, and even if it does create a benefit is subjective, right? Like some people don't. What if I don't like nice things, right? I don't know. It creates an issue. I guess that's enough because I'm just rambling at a point, and I just wanted to see if this is a. I mean, it's really dark. Let me look around. Look, that's just beautiful, though. I know with like my hand in the side. Anyway, that's enough. That's 20 minutes of rambling. I don't know if I'm going to edit this down. I'm probably not. So I'm sorry I jumped around a lot. I don't like to edit on this channel because it's just too much effort. I have another channel where I have to do editing for. I'm not doing it twice. But if you like what you saw, leave a like, do a subscribe, do a crime. Just kidding. Don't do a crime. And leave a comment if you want to, if you think I'm missing something on objective morality, if you have a better way to explain it. And if you want to, I opened this up a while ago to having debates on objective morality. On my Twitch channel, I should have advertised this in the beginning. On my Twitch channel, I'm going to be trying to do debates while I live stream in game. I'll be playing some video games and just, open up to topics like morality, abortion, LGBTQ rights, maybe some economic stuff, communism versus capitalism, or pretty much if you have a topic on it. And if I don't know enough about it, you can just teach me what you think is true. Maybe I'll agree, maybe I'll disagree. But yeah, I'm just opening up debates on live stream. For these debates, I'm only going to do them if you're okay with me posting them on my channel. I like having these conversations, but it's just a troublesome when I just need to make content. So if you just want to talk, we don't want to post it, that's great. I'm only going to be doing conversations if you're okay with me posting it. But all right, you guys have a good one. All right.